I just go on.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org.
West Africa Democracy Radio is live in Addis Ababa from Wednesday, February 11 to Sunday, February 15, 2026. Stay locked on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar for non-stop in-depth coverage of the 39th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the African Union from the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. Follow exclusive interviews, on-the-ground report, insightful analysis, and bold commentaries from our special correspondents, bringing you the key decisions, the big debates, and moments shaping Africa's future. Tune in French and English on 94.9 FM in Dakar on our news programs and follow us across all our digital platforms. West Africa Democracy Radio is covering the 39th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the African Union. Don't miss it.
This 2026 Citizens Hour returns live on radio. Renewed, more interactive, and closer to you. You can now join us live every Saturday on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM in Dakar, starting 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. in French and from 10:30 a.m. to 11:55 a.m. in English. You can also follow our live streamings on Facebook and YouTube. Citizens Hour is your space to speak up. You can now comment live on issues, ask questions, and engage directly with our presenters and invited experts as we unpack major developments shaping West Africa. Make your voice heard. Be part of the conversation every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. in French and 10:30 a.m. to 11:55 a.m. in English. Well, if you missed the show, catch the rebroadcast 6 p.m. in English and 7:30 p.m. in French. Citizens Hour is your time to speak. Hello there, and thank you for joining us on this edition of Citizens Hour, your democratic citizens engaging and current affairs radio program. We are coming to you live from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in the Senegalese capital of Dakar and online at WADR.org. We're also streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. Citizens Hour comes to you live every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and bring in more engaging conversation. I am Imo Edet here in Dakar, and I do have my colleague Usman Omar in Abuja co-anchoring the program. Usman.
Indeed, Imo, good morning. Good morning, West Africa. We thank you for staying with us on this edition of Citizens Hour, where, of course, we bring to you conversations that center on accountability, justice, and the voices of ordinary people of West Africa, wherever they are from around the world. Of course, on today's program, our discussion takes us to the security landscape, where the United States has confirmed the deployment of troops to Nigeria to train and advise, in quote, in the fight against insurgency. But what does this move really mean for West Africa's security future, especially as the region faces shifting global alliances? Is this a genuine effort to support regional peace? Or does it signal a growing dependency on external forces? In this program, we unpack the implications of this deployment for regional security, sovereignty, and Africa-led solutions. Imo.
Meanwhile, as leaders gather in Addis Ababa, the Ethiopian capital, for the 39th AU summit, which ends tomorrow, questions are increasingly being raised about Africa's ability to solve its own domestic crisis, specifically the water emergency. Now, across the continent, millions lack access to safe water, shaping national development, while citizens call for urgent reform and infrastructural development. Our second discussion will examine whether Africa is truly ready to prioritize water security and if the AU summit will provide concrete solutions or just more rhetoric. Stay with us for all of these discussions and more. We welcome our listeners following on live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. You can be part of this conversation by dropping a message in the comment section. Well, let's bring on board our guests for this part. Usman, over to you.
All right. Of course, joining us is Chief Edinem Usoro. He is a security expert. And of course, we also have joining us, I think I can see that he's just trying to join us right about this time, Mr. Austin Aigbe. He is the advocacy lead for the West Africa Democratic Solidarity Network, WADMOS. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Indeed. Well,
you're very much welcome, Chief. Mr. Austin, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to run away from class.
All right. Well, Chief, thank you. From a strategic point of view, let's start with security angle now. Why is this U.S. deployment happening now, and what specific gap is West African security is meant to fill?
Thank you very much. I'm sure everybody's aware.
Sorry, this was for Chief Ferdinand.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
I think to an average Nigerian, the news of the deployment of the 200-man U.S. military delegation is a big news, is a cheering news. And filled with optimism, because those who think about sovereignty, those who think about the negative impact of water deployment or the cooperation may bring are just on their own. Nigerians that have lived for over 10, 15 years of insecurity, now banditry, kidnappings, local people, I'm not even talking about those in the urban areas, local people, people really have what to eat, being kidnapped and taken to the deep forests and bushes and has to pay millions of naira. So the U.S. coming at this time is a very welcome development, and I can say this with every certainty that we've been yearning for this kind of cooperation. You know, the truth of the matter is that the world is becoming a global village, and where you lack capacity, where you lack the equipment, where you lack the infrastructure, where you lack the expertise, especially when it comes to security, and a country like the United States of America comes to tell you, look, we want to help out, it will only be foolhardy for you to refuse. But I think, like I said, and for an average Nigerian, the coming to the U.S. team is a welcome, a big welcome.
Well, let me, Usman, before you come in, please, let me just also throw this first opener to Mr. Austin. Mr. Austin, thank you so much for joining us despite your classes, which you said you just had to run out to join us in this program. Beyond the security gains, I mean, what does this development mean for democratic accountability and civilian oversight of military partnerships?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me quickly just add to a bit to, maybe not addition, you know, when Doc was talking about an average Nigerian. And I think that the average Nigerian is likely those in the South. Those in the North do not agree an average citizen in Nigeria in the north does not want military boots on the ground because of its consequences, because of this religious correlation. I do agree that civilian oversight of the military is very valid. However, I'm aware that the boots on the ground, this is the first time the US will have boots on the ground, not strategic sharing of information, but to have military boots on the ground. This is the first time in Nigeria's history. Based on certainty that is happening, we are heading towards the 2027 general election. The conversation majorly, parts of the northern part of Nigeria, is what is the US doing in Nigeria. And that is why strategically the Nigerian government also went to quickly sign a military deal with Turkey so that they can have the balance of force. We are hoping, in fact, I'm actually hoping by way of permutation, that there may also be boots on the ground from Turkey, because as it is, the Nigerian government will want to play this political middle game to try to appeal the North, because for the South is already excited about military boots on the ground. I mean, the US boots on the ground, because it adds value to strengthening our democracy. It adds value to save lives and property. But on the other side is a different narrative, and I think I need to bring that to the table. So what is it for democracy? When civilian authority are unable to utilize its own force to control and create peace, because the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of the citizens. So if the citizens are no longer safe in their own domain, it means that the civilian authority, on whose democracy, who are largely in power because of democracy, if they are not able to provide security and to save lives, then it becomes a challenge. And that is why, by all narrative, the country of particular concern has become a buzzword that the Nigerian government will want to quickly align with and then agree. But if you check what happened in Nigeria with the bombing in December 25th of 2025, the Nigerian government quickly ran out to say we were aware. But the first person that posted the news about the bomb was the president of the United States. If you go to the north today, people will tell you that bomb did not materialize to anything, that it did not attack anything. But if you come to the south, they will tell you, oh, the bomb destroyed the bandit location. I mean, I have heard this because just last week I came from Castina. I was in Kwara. I was in Jos over the last 2 weeks. And I've had different versions of this narrative. And it comes to me that Nigeria is a bit of a challenge, the way information are managed and how you deploy boots on the ground.
Usman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Austin. Let me go back to Chief, because apparently Chief seems to align with those who agree that let's put sovereignty aside. Safety of Nigerian lives should come first. And if having US boots on the ground will bring us this, then so be it. But just to take us back to, the reality on ground, like Mr. Austin has pointed, a few weeks back, of course, the United States president announced a major attack, quote and unquote, on ISWAP, as he said, and other terrorist groups with that attack in Sokoto. Now, and of course, we've had different versions of this. In fact, we saw video clips of how some of the farmers were taking some of the particles of that attack and making mockery of that. Now, Chief, from your own security experience, how realistic is this type of partnership? Even though, of course, the boots on ground say they are coming to advise and train, but the major euphoria is that U.S. soldiers will be everywhere to take out those who have been denying villagers sleep, have been murdering peace. How realistic is this type of partnership from your experience, from the standpoint of a security expert? How realistic has been this type of deployment by the U.S. in other countries where they have, intervened in this manner? Do we still have Chief?
Chief, I think you may have to unmute.
Oh, Chief has not unmuted, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. So, okay.
Yeah.
So I was saying that this is my 41 years in northern Nigeria. I'm a son of the soil, and And so I think I can speak with some little bit of authority. There's no way in the North that the majority of the people who are going through hell will have any sort of complaint against the deployment of any kind of sort of power that will come help them. I say this authoritatively. The people who may want to raise some little noise are the political class and maybe those who benefit from their religious positions. But an average Northerner, majority of them, are people who work in large farms, who have their own farms, who feed from their farms. And then for years, they've not been able to do what they know how to do best. And so they are the ones suffering. There's no, I can tell you this, the noise is just that the villagers, do they have access to radio? Do they have access to television? Do they have access to the newspapers? Do they own an X account? No. It is the political class and their agents, those they pay, their media people that spin all this stuff. But so the truth of the matter, the factual point is that everyone, particularly in the North, because of the land mass, and that there's so many open spaces. I don't want to really call it ungoverned spaces, but there are a lot of open spaces that it would take even the whole deployment of all our security forces, deploy them to the North. It would not be enough to go around. If you like, recruit 100,000 more soldiers, it can be, how many villages would they cover? Was the distance from one village to another? So, but the point is, this thing happened during Jonathan's time, when Boko Haram were going haywire. And the same people making noise now were those that hindered what Jonathan was trying to do. Bringing those mercenaries, they came in the Northeast, for instance, elections held in Borno, election held in Yobe. That was the strong basis of Boko Haram. But, just that little intervention helped. Although it was cut short by late Muhammad Buhari, that one doesn't know what really he did for the North. But what I want to say is that Nigerians, and when I mean Nigerians, I don't mean the politicians. In fact, I will not include them, because they have armed government security personnel attached to them, attached to their wives, maybe attached to their children, attached to their homes.
Chief.
So when they are going, they go by air.
Chief, let me just interject here.
Yes.
I mean, do you think this deployment or this cooperation of some sort would have happened before now? Election is in 12 months, let me put it that way. And do you see any correlation with that?
About what, with the election?
Yes, I mean, this deployment, don't you think it would have happened, it should have happened earlier?
No, not at all. Not at all. If anything, you link it up to the American government assertion that there is Christian genocide in Nigeria. It has nothing to do with the election, because Trump is made up his mind. He feels that Christians are being killed. He feels that Christian worshippers are being targeted. I think that will even be a more relative link.
Yes,
and maybe you can now.
Yeah. Yes, Chief, this is where I want to come in to take Mr. Austin on, because clearly President Trump has linked this deployment specifically to the protection of Christians. Of course, now the question one will want to ask is, does this religious framing of a security crisis help the situation, or does it risk deepening the sectarian divisions that democracy advocates are trying to heal? Mr. Austin.
So first of all, let me tell you, that is why I told you that there's division already. I mean, with all due respect, the framing of the Christian genocide has its own implication, and that's why I told you about the Turkey form of another level of cooperation to be seen to be at the middle ground. As I speak now, the arguments still remain within the certain architecture that there is nothing like Christian genocide, that what you have is killings of Nigerians. And that those, I mean, it's almost like a conflict right now between the Christians and the Muslims, whether there's actually genocidal action going on. But for the Christians, they feel, because they're the one attacked, and they feel that there's a direct attack on them because of their religion and because of what they believe. But if you flip the coin around, there are also Muslims that are killed, there are Fulani that are killed. There are cattle rustling going on and happening very well that are targeting people of the Muslim architecture in a way. So when you say that there's a Boko Haram or there's bandit or there is ISWAP that targets Christians, the same individuals, the same criminal element, because I like to call them criminal element, and that they framing them alongside with Fulani or Muslim will be counterproductive. So we need to identify this criminal element and deal with them. Because if you try to correlate it in a way of framing, in a way of messaging, you unconsciously get to a point where those who are Muslims begin to see themselves as being attacked because you correlated sin as Christian genocide. And that is the basic argument why major northerners, and I repeat, radio is the fastest, the biggest of means of communication in the north. Far in the bushes, you see radio in their ear. They listen to every piece of information, whether it's in Hausa or in Fudede or whatever. They listen. They are mobilized. I agree. They could be mobilized by way of targeting. They may not have access to social media and those, but they have access to information. And that is why they know how to target them. They know the radio station. They listen to BBC Hausa is one of the biggest that they listen to. It has a huge following, particularly in northern Nigeria, or let me say in Nigeria. BBC Hausa. People who follow BBC Hausa is more than people who follow BBC English in Nigeria, BBC Radio. Why am I saying this? Yes, there is a huge challenge. I have had this argument that for my Muslim friends, I told them, if you feel you are also attacked, if you feel that you are also being killed, I think you should start your own narrative of Muslim genocide, or so that it's a balance of force. But accusing Christians to say there is no genocide will also be a mispriority or misplacement. I will not agree as a person that there is a Christian genocide in Nigeria. No, I will not, because that's a general framing. I will not. But if you say there is a Christian genocide in the north or north central, which is basically the high point, north central of Nigeria, that's what you have. I will agree to a Christian targeted genocide. In any case, from studies that are available, what could be genocidal action is actually resource capture. Most of those lands where you have those invasion and killing of Christians and all in churches and all, they've got some resources, particularly in Plateau, in Benue. Those communities called ancestral land, which the Christian community have largely occupied for a longer time, but there's now resources that are found on those grounds that the government has refused to own. For instance, the kind of atrocities going on in Zamfara, the gold mine. The gold mine today is not part of the national resource mobilization. So the state and individual and non-state actors continue to go in those places and kill anybody inside because they want to grab those resources. It's a resource war. But somehow it can be classified as Christian genocidal action because Christians are largely targeted because they are land that you are taking away to try to man those resources, that maybe gold or whatever natural resources under the ground. In all honesty, Donald Trump's position is on Christian genocidal action. But the Nigerian government have tried as much as possible to change the narrative, but it is not happening. The boots on the ground is a justification of Christian genocide. That's why I said just now that don't be surprised that we may have boots on the ground from Turkey so that there can be a balance of force.
But Mr. Austin, you have had more works with ECOWAS. What do you think they can do in the coordination, especially monitoring these arrangements, the U.S., Nigeria, U.S., ECOWAS, to align with the bloc's security framework?
You see, the truth of the matter is that I don't think ECOWAS really have any role to play at this time because there be French countries in Francophone countries. The French deployment in Francophone, we have had military. I think there's a U.S. base in. Okay, there was a U.S. base in Mali. In Niger, in Agadez, until they were forced to move out. There was, I think there's somewhere around the close to Senegal area, you have a U.S. warship somewhere hanging on West African coast. So the thing about, okay, today you have Russia coming in very formidably in the West African region. So at the end of the day, can ECOWAS do? No, ECOWAS cannot. But ECOWAS has done its own role by giving countries in the Sahel area certain amount of money to deal with insecurity, which I think we have had this conversation before, that I don't think that ECOWAS should have given this country the money, that ECOWAS should have been the one leading that architecture, that security coordination in a way the citizens of this country sees ECOWAS in real time protecting them. But the way it is today, ECOWAS is not even seen in anywhere because of what they call sovereignty. And I'm happy when Chief talked about sovereignty. What is sovereignty when you are not able to protect your citizens? What is sovereignty when people... Look at what just happened in Kwara recently. And we have gone past it. Hundreds are killed. Nigeria no longer have empathy for the dead. So tomorrow we hit another one, 500 killed, and we just gloss over it. And the next day is another killing. The next day is another killing. The next day is another killing. Which one are we going to be tracking? Which one are we going to be staying with? ECOWAS look at African Union.
Yeah.
We look at African Union. African Union was quarreling. African Union was quarreling. Just to end on this note, African Union had to write about Gaddafi's son that died, and could not appeal to Nigeria. Could even write about we criticize those killings. African Union, remember one man that was assassinated, one individual, a Gaddafi's son. Meanwhile, hundreds have been killed in this country. Is there a statement from ECOWAS? I'm not even asking them to condemn it. Stop condemning it. Take action. Take action.
All right. Take action, ECOWAS. Take action, AU. And I want to believe that this is the point for this type of conversation, because citizens have to speak up to these regional bodies and even national government. But let me go back to Chief, because Mr. Austin made some comments regarding the recent exit of U.S. forces from Niger. And of course, we also saw how Mali and Burkina Faso severed ties with French forces who had to leave. And we're also seeing the incursion, so to speak, or the taking of advantage by Russia and other bigger world countries. Now, but my question to you, Chief, if you are listening, is does this risk, because we now have US shifting, so to speak, from Niger and now to Nigeria, does it worry you that Nigeria may become another target of these armed groups, just to prove a point?
To the US.
I will appeal to the Nigerian government not to just stand to be politically correct, but to know that this is a matter of life and death. Like I've said, this is my 41 years in northern Nigeria. There is no part of the north I've not driven to, I've not stayed in. But I can't do that now. It's a deadly luxury. You can't move from one state to the other just like that. You have to plan, you have to pray. And so, if I were to be advising government directly, I will tell them to do whatever it will take. If America wants to come and build a station, give them. And Senator Lindume said something, I think on Arise
TV
news.
On Channels TV
yesterday. No, Arise. Channels 2. Channels, yeah. Where he said if they are coming, the whole 200 men that anybody making noise, he wants to take them to even his house in Goza. We want them to stay in his house. You know why he's saying that? I like people who are realistic. And that's why I said there's nowhere in the north. There is nowhere in the north. The villagers, these are the real people that are having the real impact of this banditry and kidnapping. Can you imagine a local farmer being taken and later they are forced to pay tax to these bandits? Or I've read a sad story that where the bandits said they were coming, they came to stay for 2 weeks and asked the men to leave the town, leave their wives behind, their daughters behind, all kinds of very sad unimaginable stories. So is it the same people you said they will complain that Americans are there when the Americans will help them? The truth of the matter is that the Niger we are talking about, the Burkina Faso, Mali, these are countries that these delinquents are needing, and where are they today? Is their security situation not becoming worse? And that's why we need the Americans to work fully with us, because the delinquents, the armed groups that are attacking, the other day, wasn't not last week, they attacked the country's airport in Niamey.
Yes.
How close can that your adversary be? So you think that if they conquer Nigeria, they will not be trying to cross over to Nigeria? So these are the dangers. What about Burkina Faso? The young man just came and was doing a Boy Scout show, and these jihadists and bandits are taking over almost half of his country. So what my own advice to government would be that, the issue, the government started it when Trump said, there's a Christian genocide in Nigeria. I don't know why the Muslims are complaining if they said there's a Christian genocide. I don't know why our political leaders are complaining. One, they didn't accuse you. They didn't say government was the one killing. Of course, they said the government is not able to protect. And are we saying that government is able to do all that they're supposed to do? Okay, if not, why are you looking for help now? So I think that the right thing to do, if you say, because we have an average Christian, he will tell you that there's Christian genocide. Why? You go to a church and pick 277 people. 277 people. And they go on a Sunday morning inside the churches. So what is that one called? What is even the word genocide? What does it mean? When you go to a community and then you clear everybody, and then the people, run away from the remaining ones, those who are able to escape will leave their ancestral lands, never to go back. What is that called? And now, if the same thing is happening in the far north, and there's a Muslim genocide, let us call it so. So that if we can, that will help us attract the sympathies of those who can help. For me, as a person, I leave this diplomacy, no foot on ground, they just come to advise. What do you mean? If they can, you mean America, if they bring their war planes, some of their sharp war tools, they will come and give you to use them. If what we've been suffering for years, just give these guys to come. They know they have the kind of war aircraft that will target this where they are. Eliminate them in a matter of weeks.
Well, Chief, I would like to chip in here, and this my next question will actually be for you and Mr. Austin. Well, now that the 200 troops have been approved to land foot in Nigeria, is there going to be any improvement afterwards? Because most people say now that the U.S. is in the country, we should have some peace, and perhaps the element wiped out. Is this going to happen? Are we going to see a difference from what we are talking about now? Chief, let me start with you before Ms. Austin responds to that.
Yeah, of course, I am 100% optimistic that if you know the capacity of the American military, what people are saying, and it is sad because some people are benefiting from this insecurity situation. And maybe they may be the ones making all the noise. Some people are making big bucks out of it. If America comes in, mind you, there are also Americans in this country. Mind you, they also have their businesses, their American businesses in this country. And for me, for effect, if Russia is going around African countries trying to cause trouble here and there, with all the things they are doing. Was it not early this week for some 4 Nigerians were killed in Ukraine? Fighting for Russia against Ukraine. And the other one, I read one last night, a young man crying. I think somebody, not the woman that is interviewing me, that the Nigerian government should try and come and help him and then bring him back. So for me, the way the Russians are going about it, the Niger people, ask anybody there, is their condition better? Because when these jihadists will get into countries, capital city at their airport and attack for hours, then that country is finished. That country is finished. So I'm very optimistic. What we need to do, like I have said, I wish that we can have more northern politicians speak the way Alain Dume is speaking. Come, if there's no space, come and stay in my village. I don't want them to. In fact, they said the 200 should be deployed to his local government.
Well, let me turn over to Mr. Austin, who may want to leave us very soon. Well, Mr. Austin, I would like you to respond to that question and perhaps look at what this means for the sub-region and if there will be no spillover effect, considering how fragile our region is, despite the AS which we have, and they're fighting their own fight. Mr. Austin, your response, please.
You may need to unmute your mic, Mr. Austin.
Oh, sorry about that. I believe the U.S. deployment in Nigeria can do a lot, sincerely so, for many reasons. The challenge with our security architecture in Nigeria is because of the politicization of everything. We politicize everything. Even appointment of military heads have been politicized. The U.S. will not be moved by emotion. They'll be moved by intelligence. When the U.S. struck in December of 2025, when it struck in Sokoto, people were surprised. Why is it that? Why Sokoto? Why not the Bay State, the Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe State? Why not? Because this area, these are the Northeast. This is the Northeast where you have Boko Haram. But the U.S. struck in a place that I'm too sure that the Nigerian government knew that place. But because of emotion or maybe other things, because that's where you have the seat of the caliphate. That's where you have the sultan. So Nigerian government going to strike in that kind of location may be misinterpreted. But the U.S. did it. What can happen with the U.S. intelligence on the ground, even though the Nigerian government has said they will work under the direction of the Nigerian government? That's where I only have a challenge. If the U.S. boot on the ground works with the direction of the Nigerian authority, particularly Nigerian government, the political actors, the result will be near zero. But if the U.S. truly want to do its job, because the U.S. is the one funding it, because you must put your mouth where your money is, the U.S. does not need 6 months to clear out insurgency, security, all of those in this country. I use these 6 months because before now, there was a defense chief of Nigeria who is now late, General not Biya, the Air Force man who was killed later, Alex Bade. Alex Bade, when he took over power as defense chief before the 2015 elections, it was very clear that they will clear Boko Haram within 6 months. And I believed him. But the same General Bade, when insurgency went to his village, within 15 minutes of their arrival, the same General Bade has gone home and lifted his family members and took them away from Adamawa State, somewhere in Baga. So the question is that he got the intelligence. So what now happened? Because Boko Haram or insurgency in Nigeria has become oil company. Oil company in the framing of corruption. There are people who buy military hardware, people who have the budget to fight insecurity have also become the problem, just like in the US. Military contractors are the greatest problems. They manufacture all manner of infrastructure, you must buy them. So they create war and ask the US to move in.
Mr. Austin,
because they have the power.
Mr. Austin, I would like you to touch on the spillover effect that this will have in the sub-region, because, Nigeria may be described as the giant of Africa and the biggest in the sub-region. Whatever happens to Nigeria may equally affect, bordering countries. How will this spillover effect be? And looking at the fragile state of our sub-region.
Thank you. I almost missed that. The spillover will be monumental. Monumental because as you begin to bombard these insurgency locations, they are likely going to move immediately. The Lokarawa, Boko Haram, insurgency, bandit, all of those names, they may end up moving to the Sahel, real Sahel area, where you have in the main domain countries, including Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali. And it may be new. Maybe for the first time, we may have a challenge if they have to cross over to up to all the way to Senegal or the Gambia or Sierra Leone. It may be a monumental challenge. So there may be insecurity moving away from Nigeria and moving to closer countries, particularly Nigerian neighbors. And those ones may not have the capacity to deal with them. Today, Mali, Burkina Faso, they are still fighting insurgency. They are unable to deal with it. We are aware how the insurgency group took over the supply of petroleum products into Mali. It was a challenge, and I think it's still going on, even though the military has tried to do one or two. But the weakening of Russia has become a challenge. The Cold War that started in the 90s has gradually moved to this area. So U.S. coming to protect Nigeria, in quote, we mean pulling people against Russia, because Russia is an enemy, so to say, of the U.S. or of the West. And that is the bane. And maybe
Mr.
people...
Austin, don't you think this is even... Mr. Austin, don't you think this is even when the regional bloc should come together in this fight? I mean, if the superpower like the U.S. is coming in to support Nigeria in terms of advice, intelligence share, and all of that, don't you think this is even be the best time? Let's join the U.S. and see if we can, take out the element from the sub-region.
But ECOWAS cannot join to take out the element in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, because they are no more members of ECOWAS. But I think that the U.S. is also having conversation right now with Burkina Faso. You recall the reciprocal action about visa. When the U.S. stopped visa to these three countries, the Sahel country came together and also seized visas, the U.S. people, U.S. citizens from coming. And the Donald Trump administration has gradually backtracked and is having is trying to have a relationship with these countries. Maybe in an attempt to deal with the security structure challenge in Nigeria, the Sahel country may agree to the U.S. and then discharge Russia, and then that's when we can sincerely say that addressing insecurity in the sub-region will be holistic. If you drive them away from Nigeria, after 5 years, U.S. would have left Nigeria or so, the insurgency will bounce back. We must truly pursue them. The U.S. need to pursue them beyond the Sahel, totally dismantle them, dismantle their supporters from Iran, because that conversation is also going on in Tehran. All of those, it has to be an holistic approach. But the way it is now, if you solve it in Nigeria, it is not enough.
All right, Mr. Austin, thank you very much for your submissions. And as you were speaking, a lot of thoughts were just crossing my mind. I think I got scared a little bit, I must admit. Yes, because when you said you wouldn't even want Nigerian military to be involved, else the result would be zero. And that suggests that you are actually fully in support of a foreign military invading your country, taking over control and doing whatever they feel is necessary for your country. But let me go over to Chief, because this is a very serious issue.
Let me quickly clear that. Let me clear that. Okay. I did not say the Nigerian military involvement. I said that the notion is that the Nigerian government has said that the U.S. military will work under their control.
Yes, that's what Major General Samaila Uba said. He said Nigerian forces will retain full command authority. Yes. If you do that, the kind of intervention of the U.S. will be minimal, because they cannot be under the control of the people who have not done the job. But are you saying that it is okay for Nigeria to step back and give U.S. the full command to take over military operations in Nigeria? Is that what you're saying?
When the U.S. have intelligence, the U.S. should deal with it. All right. That does not mean the Nigerian government is not dealing with that.
But I want to ask Chief, because he is in the security sector. Now, in practice, how realistic is it to maintain full sovereignty when you have foreign troops that are embedded in intelligence cells and even planning headquarters, especially with this particular deployment of 200 U.S. troops in Nigeria who are said to be here to advise and train? how realistic is it for Nigeria to actually still be in control of its military when these guys are here, embedded in every other very important aspect of the operations?
It's very funny, like I said, when I want to talk security issues, I always want to try to make a distinction talking about politicians. Because when the issue of the Christian genocide started, you see the way our government overworked. They get overworked. They were traveling everywhere. No Christian. And then even you get into places like, for instance, in Plateau State, there are places where the indigents can go back home. The same thing in Benue, the same thing in parts of Kaduna. Where those people have left their ancestral lands. So the question is, what do you mean by genocide? Now, they will say, oh, no Christian genocide. Oh, some people said Muslims are being killed. Which I know. Like, for instance, you go to Usafa. If you go to Katsina, you read you see some videos.
Okay,
some videos on Twitter.
Chief,
yes.
Chief, because we are pressed for time, the question I asked,
Okay.
because you've given these details before, the question I asked is, how realistic is it, or are you saying also that it is okay,
no, I want
for Nigerian military to step aside and allow the US forces to take full control?
I wanted to just lay a foundation to it. Now, let me go directly. That there is nothing, when we talk about sovereignty, in what regards? Are they coming to become your president? Go to any major hospital in Nigeria. Go to most of the big hospitals in Abuja. Are they not being run by foreigners? There is no sovereignty there. The World Bank people have their offices in Nigeria. They will tell you this economic policy you are taking is not right. And they will tackle you until you change it. Is it not sovereignty, economic sovereignty? If you go to all the planes, even the war planes we have, is there anyone that is manufactured here? Is that not sovereignty? But like I said, I would like to advise is for the Nigerian government. If the US wants to be our partners, let us be partners. We can work as equals. We can work as friends. And that's because they know they have interests here. They have their American companies. They have the American citizens here. You think that they want something to happen, when their citizens are, when their investment are there. So the fact is, we should see this as an opportunity. I wouldn't want us to work with Russia. I wouldn't, for several reasons. So any country that, even if Turkey wants to come in, okay, fine. A friendly country, I don't mind, sir. Bring us, you can either bring us 1 or 2 aircraft we use after operation, maybe a month or 2. You can take it back. That's the kind of arrangement I'm looking at. But when people, our politicians that talk about sovereignty, when it suits them, because the point is, we need to end this war so that this spending on the counterterrorism matters will end. Some people need to know that this matter, Nigerians are very, 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 very expectant that the Americans coming will end, this terrorism that they have been facing for years now, for over a decade.
In rounding up this session of the program, I know Usman do have a question for Mr. Austin, but I do have a last one for you. I mean, looking ahead 5 to 10 years from now, could this move strengthen self-reliant within the regional security architecture, or we will continue seeing countries depending on superpowers for assistance? Mr. Austin. Please,
you have to unmute.
Please unmute.
Yes, I'm trying. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So to your question, please just reframe it. I missed it.
I mean, we're looking at in 5 years, in 5 to 10 years, what will happen? I mean, are we going to see this move
dependent
strengthen?
on super story.
Yes, self-reliance.
Yes. Okay. So in today's war or global war, wars are no longer fought between countries. Wars have become internal security. Wars have become online, cyber security challenge, disinformation, cyber attack. These are the new war. These are the new challenge. terrorism in country, banditry in country. So we may not be seeing wars between Nigeria and Ghana like that. And that is why today, the capture of Maduro in Venezuela has not resulted to any war. And you may ask yourself why that the Maduro's friends are not talking. Where are the Russians? Where is the Chinese? So wars, we are now in a more contemporary warfare that we no longer even need the kind of armory that, unless you want to bomb the world with nuclear weapon and all that, and dismantle the entire the place called Earth. Having said that, countries in international relations, you are going to always have allies or you remain alone. Like Nigeria. Nigeria's position in the global community is non-alliance. We don't support any. We are not in the West. We are not in the East. We are in between, and that started with at the independence that we are non-alliant. If Nigeria decide to join Russia, it means that we are clearly anti-American. If Nigeria plays a big role in BRICS, it means that you are clearly against Russia, and that's what's happening to South Africa. Clearly, South Africa, India, and co, who are on the side of BRICS, fully on the side of BRICS, are seen as anti-America. So does Nigeria truly want to be anti-America? Does Nigeria even want to be anti-Russia or the Chinese? The Chinese are having their feed day in Nigeria, investing everywhere, including building the ECOWAS building after finishing the one of the African Union. The Chinese are there. So the cooperation, international-wise, the cooperation will remain. But each country, particularly weaker countries like Nigeria, must align for a superpower so that an injury to one, that is basically international relation. That's what led to NATO. An injury to one will be an injury to all. You strike one NATO member, all other members come after you. But tell me where Nigeria truly stands. That kind of world war architecture has actually been dismantled. Countries of the world are facing attacks on a daily basis, whether internet or whatever. It's all conventional. We have left the conventional war. We are now a contemporary war.
Indeed. Well, I'm afraid we have to go. Ms. Austin, thank you so much for your time and for joining us on the program. We also want to thank Chief Edin Usoro there in Plateau, Nigeria. Chief, we thank you so much for your time and giving us your Saturday morning to be on the show. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, if you're just joining us on radio or streaming on YouTube and Facebook, this is Citizens Hour, and we're coming to you live from West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar. We have been examining what the U.S. troop deployment to Nigeria means for West Africa's security future. Usman.
Now, across Africa, the issue of water scarcity and emergency is becoming an increasingly prominent topic of public debate. Now, in many countries, the lack of clean water affects health, economic development, and social cohesion. Imo.
Yes, and of course, to answer this question and more, I hope our guests have joined us. So we have a guest joining us this morning, and she is Sarin Malik, the Executive Secretary of the African Civil Society Network on Water, ANU. Well, welcome, Madam Sarin, to the program. Madam Sarin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you now clearly.
Good.
Thank you very much for joining us. We want to ask you, first of all, how is Addis Ababa this time?
Yeah, buzzing with excitement. I think the whole of this continent is present here today, and being part of the water fraternity or sisterhood or with family, we're really excited that 2026 is the year of water and sanitation.
Very great, very good. I wish you a successful summit, which I believe is ending tomorrow. Now, but with the 39th AU Summit, which you are attending presently, and which has an overall theme focusing, as you said, on water and sanitation, which began on Wednesday and is about to round off tomorrow, Sunday 15th. Is there any real evidence that African leaders, from what you have seen from the panel discussions and side events, have you seen any evidence that African leaders are ready to treat the water crisis as the emergency it is?
Absolutely. African leaders actually started this work a couple of years ago. This is a culmination of work that has been taking place at least in the last 4 or 5 years. So while we still have challenges, there is a recognition on our continent that water is at the center of our economic development of our people, but also is one of the main drivers of achieving Agenda 2063. So this work actually started a while back, and we cannot, while we know that our governments, their hands are tied, but on this one, let's give credit where it's due.
Indeed. Well, Madam Sarin, we know that Africa, a big and vast continent as it is, has like 6 to 7 or 8 major rivers. And one would want to ask, with all of these rivers, lakes, groundwater, why do we still struggle with access to safe water?
You know, we've had a number of answers over the last 2 decades. But based on my experience and what I have seen, we lack because of prioritization, because we do not prioritize water and sanitation enough. Yes, there are issues of financing. Yes, there are issues of even our geography, our terrain, you know, the way people are spread out on this continent. But I still believe it is a prioritization issue. Let me give you an example. What does that mean? There's an example I gave very recently. In my country, there's a particular county that is known for its very beautiful beaches and ocean and hotels, you know, really nice place. But if you look beyond the bush, that particular county has some of the worst education outcomes. You have 13-year-old boys that are already fathers of 3 children. The girls, or they're fetching water, or they're being shipped to the Gulf as domestic workers, or they're at the beach doing we know what. That particular area has about 1,800 water points, of which 80% of them are non-functional. And that particular area is one of the hotbeds of recruitments of, you know, extremist Islamic groups. Now, recently, the governor of that particular county was put on the spot because she spent $2.5 million on her house, the state house. Do you see when I say the problem is prioritization, orientation?
Yeah.
That $2.5 million could have easily rehabilitated all those water points. Can easily sort out a number of issues on the ground, which means they had the funding. It's just that they chose not to put it where it mattered.
In other words, it's a governance and management issue.
It's a governance and an orientation and a prioritization issue. When you look at the agendas of a lot of our countries, what do you see? You'll see security, you'll see roads, you'll see, you know, big type of programs. Some of our presidents, yes, went and put health and education. And the work that we're doing is to tell them, you will not achieve all this without water. And for all the listeners out there, water runs through everything. It is at the center of everything. It is at the center of trade. If you knew how much of the value of the water that is being lost on this continent, just through trade. Yeah, just to give you an example. Yeah.
Okay, now, I'm glad that you've mentioned, you know, the agenda of many countries. Now, going back to the AU summit, every of the summit, water security has always been on the agenda of every AU summit that I know of. And earlier on, you've expressed optimism that this is going to be different. You said credit should be given where it is due. And my question is, what policy shift have you seen so far that that distinguishes this particular summit from the previous ones?
You see, this particular vision and the policy, because this is the launch of the Africa Water Vision 2063. The former one expired in December. Now, The leaders, through the AUC, had already started the development of this particular vision. Now, it speaks more to the future. This is what I said. Let's give credit where it is due. An entire continent has actually sat down and drafted a document for ourselves, but also for the generation future, to set at least the tone. Now, whether countries are going to implement it or not, by the way, they're all compelled now, they have to implement. It is already a start in the sense that the continent has said our water is key. Now, what is the other shift? This particular policy talks more about the value of water, value retention of this water. Africa as a continent, we already have 6 of the largest rivers in the world, isn't it?
Yes.
Water is I will say, yes, despite climate change impacts, despite all these things, but the water is there. This fact stands to be corrected. But if I'm not mistaken, the Congo River could hydrate everybody on this continent, as well as provide the electricity, you see? So this is that value. This is what I mean by the value of the water, and how do we really tap into this value? And what are the social returns on the people, you see? So this is what this particular one speaks to. The second one, and this one I was heavily involved in it, and it would be an injustice if I did not mention it, women. We had to be very explicit, push for the word women and girls to appear in this vision and this policy, because we all know that it is women that bear the brunt of lack of access to water, to safe water. And the argument here was that if you can sort this out for women and girls, you would have sorted it out for this continent and the people. Yeah.
Well, madam, you've talked about policies, and I know that on the continent we've had several policies. I mean, including the Africa Water Vision 2063, the Africa Development Bank Water Policy 2021. We're seeing the African Water Facility Strategy 2026 to 2030. I mean, with all of this, where is the disconnect coming from between commitment and the actual implementation?
So just a correction. Institutions like the ones you've mentioned actually would align to the Africa Water Vision Policy 2063. I need you to think of it as the constitution of water for the continent. Now, everybody, including ourselves within the civil society and organizations that work with the government, have to align to this Africa Water Vision Policy 2063. Now, what they're going to do, and what is currently being developed, and I'm part of that task team, is the first implementation plan. So 2026, 2030. It goes on a 10-year basis, but right now we're going to work on the first couple of years. And this is where now all these various institutions come in and align to what is the vision. This is an aspirational document. Yes, it has a very technical side to it. And it's really now the players of the water sector in terms of where do you put yourself over here. As for the commitments that have been made, it is upon the people of the country. It is upon us to ensure that these commitments are actually implemented and fulfilled. I always tell various audiences, basically state actors, promises made, promises kept. Now, who is going to do that? Who is going to make sure those promises made have been kept? It is the people, it is the citizenry that have to demand for these commitments to be implemented. One. Number two, create the demand for water to be given the highest priority possible. Sometimes I find is it that for us, we see it. We see how water, is what, if we can get water right, because we say the way a country manages its water is the way a country manages its public affairs. Think about it. Just think about it. The governance
All right.
of water is a direct reflection of the governance of a country, because that is the one good that is required and needed by everyone, regardless of which walk of life, regardless. I mean, do you know that, for example, producing 1 kilogram of gold requires 400,000 liters of water? Did you know a massive amount of water? We all know the various countries whose economies rely on gold, and how they have to manage between, let's say, the gold demand and the human being. So you see, it's a very delicate balance. Africa, the backbone of Africa's economy is water. And I believe the leaders of this continent have finally understood that.
All right, we share in your optimism, because it's gladdening that someone of your caliber, who has been around water conversation for years now, attending this summit, and you are this very optimistic about the outcome of this summit. But you know, in the past, it has always been that at the end of the summit, we will have very beautiful recommendations, suggestions and even recommendations. And then we now get to implementation, where financing becomes critical. And then you now have national governments, being laid back. I remember, for example, Nigeria, example, since 2012, our spending on security keeps increasing every year. And part of the security challenges that we have in the country relates to farmer-herders clash, which of course brings us back to the issue of water resources. And if you're spending so much on security, one would have expected that some of this funding should go to provision of water that will, of course, de-escalate this crisis. But we don't see that happening. I wonder where your optimism is coming from. Do you see anything that gives you this hope that governments will actually put their monies where their recommendations are?
Yes. Now, you see what the issue has been. Water has always been approached from a social perspective, from a social lens, okay? Now, the moment you approach something from a social lens, it's going to fall in the priority list. When you approach it from an investment, money, trade, then it starts gaining in importance, which is unfortunate. You see, it is, but African countries have to get their economies up and running because, for obvious reasons. Now, the narrative around water has always been from a social perspective. We all know that our African countries hardly spend any money on the social element. After all, today, if we lose our jobs, there's no social security. There's no mattress. You're going to hit the concrete floor. In fact, you'll hit Maram with those rocks sticking out. Okay, so social has never been, something that has driven governments to invest in, and yet they should. Health, education, all these things. And water actually was falling in that same category. But now, because of the scarcity issues, because of the financing issue, and also because the language is changing a bit more towards an economic one. You see, they're using economic terms. And this is a shift that has taken place over the last decade. Now, yes, governments are going to start taking it seriously, because the data has started coming in. How much water it actually takes to have those avocados, or that sugar cane, or whatever it is, manufacturing, processing, anything requires huge amounts of water, irrigation. And so governments are like, okay, we're going to have to try and sort this out. However, something that I want to mention, yes, you have this economic side of things and investment, does not mean that the social is not important. Obviously, we have to look at what are the social returns of all this use of the water to drive the economy on people. What was the people outcome? Do we have better access on the ground? For example, you have an organization that's extracting X amount of water for the manufacturing of X item. All right? Now, what was the social return of that water? You used so much water. Did it go back? Was it offset, towards the people? or did the people around your factory actually have worse outcomes the moment you came in? So these are some of the things that probably have to be balanced and managed. Now, for any policy to be implemented, it needs a social license. It needs a social license. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. Okay, let's say the government has this policy that it wants to, it has designed, and it looks wonderful on paper and everything. But then let's say the church didn't quite buy into it, didn't agree to it. And let's say you're in a country where the church holds a lot of power. Church, I mean capital C, so that's enemy. For as long as the church, capital C, has not endorsed that policy, it's going to be very difficult to implement. Because let us say maybe it is the church, capital C, that holds the social license for a policy to operate. What does that look like on the ground? That if a policy is going to come in, if the government, as a result of the implementation of the Africa Water Vision policy, has to make certain policy shifts and changes, which is definitely going to happen, but then you have these other stakeholders or shareholders on the ground that have not quite understood it. Good luck implementing that.
Indeed.
So you need the social license. And this is where civil society, capital C, and this is where different stakeholders come in to help gain that social license so that we can see the proper implementation. I have seen in countries beautiful pieces of work and structures and this and that. But let me tell you, when the social license had not been secured, the implementation was fraught with challenges and still is.
But I wanted to take you back on the changes in terms of policies that you mentioned earlier. Don't you think at some point we also have change of governments affecting these implementation of these policies? Aside the economic, when a new government comes in and then he throws out that policy and tries to implement his own, and then we keep on going round and round and round the same thing. Do you think this is also one major problem that we are battling with across the region?
Well, in our case, I think on the continent, it's better managed. I'll tell you why. There's this massive reporting system that all governments must adhere to. They have to report. It's called WASMO. Okay. And there are a number of reports that come out on an annual basis. GOR report, the WASMO report, that shows the performance of each country. Now, any country, that cares about their honor and their respect would not want to be adversely mentioned in such reports. So you do have these oversight mechanisms that exist. Number two, we have to push towards institutionalization. These policies, changes, shifts will survive a leadership change if the institution is strong enough and whether these commitments have been institutionalized. So I'll give you an example. Let's say the right to water and sanitation, okay? What does an institutionalization look like? You'll ask me, well, what does that look like? So it means that, first of all, you have certain policies and decrees that speak to the right to water and sanitation. What may that look like? Let's say a cap or a ceiling on tariff, okay? Then it would also mean that the courts get involved, because in the event that the government has not been able to provide water, the citizenry can actually take you to court for it, okay? What does it mean? It means that the fact that I don't have water is a violation of my human rights.
But do the citizens know that?
Some do, some don't. Depends who read their constitution and who didn't, you see? And this is where the role, again, of the media, yourselves, is really important. Because you must educate the people on, look, in fact, Nigeria, you should ask, what were the commitments that have been taken over here? And then in another 6 months, because everybody is going to Abu Dhabi in December for the UN Water Conference 2026. Are you saying you're going to go make the same commitments? At least the continent is aligning behind the Africa Water Vision policy. That is the main message, okay? But then let's say you come back to them a year later, all right? Let's say you do a program a year later, just to see, let us do a review of these commitments that our countries took. How far have they implemented them? And that answer will be fairly easy to get. Just have to invite a couple of guys, civil society, media, ministry, communities, just to find out, was it implemented or not? Or just calling the old auntie or the old grandmother all the way in the village to ask her if her situation has changed or not. It will give you an answer.
Thank you very much, Sareen. And I just want to follow up. I would like to just follow up again on your optimism one more time, because I want to believe that you must have seen some policy discussions and resolutions. But essentially, what financing model has been discussed that is giving you this level of confidence that this is going to be different going forward?
Okay, not so much. If I were to give you the financing models, we can go up to 300 financing models for the water sector. It's not a one solution for it. It comes in, because financing is extremely complex sector. So there are different models. And now it's for each country to see, which model it's going to use. But if you ask me, and if I'm to be cheeky, best financing model, yeah, let's prioritize water and reduce corruption in the country, manage the illegal financial flows, just manage the non-revenue water. We can get that, that would be a good financing model. The same financing model that we've been going on about for the last 20, 25 years, would be the best one. And let's face it, countries are not going to easily give money just like that, okay? Or are not going to be given money just like that. If you go and check some of our credit ratings, the majority of us, our credit ratings are absolutely terrible. Now, for example, the bank, African Development Bank, and a number of other institutions are looking into the de-risking. They have to de-risk the whatever financing mechanism and de-risk the country. That in itself is a huge undertaking and requires changes on the ground, requires changes within, new institutions need to be born out of these kind of things. Ombudsman, Auditor General needs to be functioning. The report has to be issued on an annual basis. The courts need to be functioning. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commissions need to be functioning. Because our problem is what? Our problem is impunity, isn't it? We feel we can get away with anything. Isn't that where the problem is? Yeah. So I think it speaks to a much wider, much bigger systemic issue. And this is what is interesting. Why am I optimistic? Because reforms tend to come from the water sector. Whatever reform you are going to see in the water sector and how it's going to affect the ecosystem around it is going to affect everything else in that country. Any change you see or reform you see in the water sector is usually a precursor for reforms in other sectors. It actually goes together. Kenya, 2002, the first reforms were in the water sector, which led to the reforms within the public sector. The Bill of Rights was first mentioned in the water sector, 2008, which then the first right to water and sanitation, which actually was the precursor to and the driver for the Bill of Rights in the Constitution of Kenya. And this is why water is so important.
I wanted to take you to the community level and the impact this water crisis is having on people there. I mean, you mentioned even in the next 10 years when you're having a review, you call the leaders together and you call the grandma back home and to find out if there are changes or there are improvement in the situation. And you will agree that women and girls bear a larger part of the burden on water collection. And sitting there in Addis Ababa deliberating, what are the best policies you think can be done to address this gender dimension more effectively?
Well, first of all, I think we need to stop calling it gender and just call it women and girls. Number two, because gender tends to dilute, you see, and women and girls need to be made extremely visible. So we have to be very explicit on that. Number two, just the acknowledgement of women and girls. Acknowledge them. Let your policies acknowledge them. Let the water policies in your country acknowledge them. That the approach that you're using, acknowledge them. And in a very structured, thorough way, not rhetoric, you see, because we're very good at rhetoric, where you just put a paragraph, gender responsive something. No, it's very specific. Gender responsive or women responsive or girl responsive. What will it look like at a policy level? Let's at the design level, okay? So you're making sure that the design of the water system or the design of the sanitation facility is designed for women and girls and let's say people with disability, okay? People who are vulnerable, all right? What does it look like? It means that when, even at the grassroots level, when a district or a community or whatever it is doing its budget, it has actually allocated budget towards women and girls. What can that look like? Which means probably your pipe has to go maybe a little further, further in. What does it look like? Climate resilient type of infrastructure is probably required. I'm not an engineer, I'm a lawyer, but I can imagine digging in a certain way or, putting things in place that, in case of flooding or in case of drought, putting in place measures where if there's a disaster, that everybody is looked after, but particularly women and girls and people who are vulnerable. But before we even get to that, just getting the countries to acknowledge women and girls, let them acknowledge them in your policy, put them at the center of these policies.
Now, but I just want to do a follow-up on that because it's important that we bring the women and girls dimension to this conversation. And I still go back again to your optimism that this summit is going to be different. What have you seen that has been discussed regarding solutions that will bring about ease and relief to women and girls who are most affected during water crisis?
We hear it more. You hear it more in the speech. You hear women coming up a lot more. That was not the case before now. So in the last couple of years, it's starting to grow. Where people are going to talk about women without having been told that you need to mention this. So something has been internalized, but the work still remains for us in the country. The women, the girls, the people with disabilities, anybody need to create demand. Their voices need to be heard a lot louder. You see, so quite a bit of work is being done. But again, like I said, yes, you have your governments. Who are your representatives? You elected them. You put them in power. Hold them accountable. Where you're seeing they're not performing, hold them accountable. Where you see they may have overlooked something, create the demand for it. Create demand for it. What does creating demand mean? It means campaigning. It means making sure you're being heard. It's telling the government, you have to take this seriously. Well, telling the players and the sector, you need to take this seriously.
Well, as we round off this conversation, I just checked the time now and realized that when you're having an interesting conversation, time flies. What should be the expectations of people listening? Because I understand we're being listened to live in Ghana, in Wenchi. What result would people want to see in the next coming month? Or is this going to be rhetorics? As I mentioned, what will be the final answer to all of the problems of water, including that of climate change? Is it also being considered?
Of course, against the climate change backdrop, because we are all affected. Okay, if there's one thing you need to see, there's one thing you need to push, is that you need your heads of state to declare water a priority. Let it be at the national level. They're usually called heads of state initiatives, but you need to see your heads of state come and say water is at the top of the development agenda. If you're not seeing that, you still have a problem, then you need to mobilize and make sure it is seen.
Indeed. Usman.
Well, although I would have just wanted to ask your last and final message to young women, listening to us at this moment, because to have a personality of your caliber at the level where you operate right now, you must have started somewhere. We like to motivate young Africans. What would you be telling a young girl watching us on our digital platforms or listening to us from across Africa at the moment? What would you be telling them?
What I would be telling them, to the ones that come from privilege and that are empowered to a certain extent, look after the weaker ones. Find ways of looking after them. Use your talent, your skills to look after these women. What does that look like? Women, we need a lot more guardrails still in order for us to progress. Because there are certain things which we are more vulnerable or more exposed to. So it's really important that those that are in a position to get those guardrails implemented or designed, you must do so. Because you never know. Your daughter might need it one day. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. For the girls that are struggling, hold us accountable. Come out and say, we hear you, we see you, we know of your issue. Bear with us. Forgive us for taking so long sometimes, but we see it. We see you. We see you, and we're trying to do our best.
Indeed, we see you.
Yes.
And as we see you, we say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sareen Malik, Executive Secretary of the African Civil Society Network on Water, or you simply say ANU. And
also the Vice Chair of SWA, Sanitation and Water for All. Yes.
Oh, great. It's been a very great conversation.
It was really nice. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ma, for joining us.
Bye.
All right, and that's the much we can take on this edition of Citizens Hour. This last session was on AU Summit and the Africa Water Emergency, alongside the security implications of U.S. deployment of its troops in Nigeria. And we want to thank you so much for your kind attention. Joining us from Ghana. Thank you so much. Our listeners on Royals FM, Wentry, and beyond. Usman.
Thank you very much, West Africa. And Imo, it's been a pleasure doing this with you week in, week out. We say a sincere thank you to all of you who had listened to us keenly this week, and hope that you will join us again for a fresh edition next week. It's bye from me this time.
And goodbye from my end. And many thanks to Maudo Juf and Mustafa Seka on the technicals.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Your current affairs program, Citizens Hour, is now more inclusive, more educative, and brings you a broader perspective on political and governance matters. This quarter on Citizens Hour, we spotlight issues on democracy, civic education, women and youth participation in governance, and other policy issues. Every Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. and a repeat broadcast at 6 p.m. on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar. Also, don't miss our special monthly debate, which comes up every last Saturday of the month on trending political and governance issues in the sub-region. Citizens Hour on West Africa Democracy Radio. It's your time to speak.